Good morning, Mets fans, and Happy New Year. This is Driving with Mr. Met, our first of 2018. A year that has to be better than 2017, at least as far as we are concerned as Mets fans. I was thinking this morning as I was trying to figure out what I'm going to talk about. I really can't remember a winter of, an off-season in baseball that's moved so slowly. This has just been like the slowest moving off-season that I can recall. And maybe it's just because it's fresh in my mind that I'm not thinking about the most recent one, whatever it was, but it just seems like nothing is happening. I was scouring a couple of different websites for news, and I didn't find anything worth talking about. So I'm going to talk instead about a couple of the little rumors that I read on Bleacher Report this morning, and we'll go from there. Again, Happy New Year, everyone. I hope everyone had a fun and safe and exciting and enjoyable end of 2017 and a fun and safe, enjoyable ringing in of 2018. Again, as far as the Mets go, there's just nothing happening. And maybe now that the holidays are behind us, maybe things will start to pick up in baseball. And I mentioned it as far as the Mets go, it's really across baseball. It's just like nothing is happening. It's a complete standstill. It's crazy. There's just no movement at all. And, the result of that has been, I can't imagine how it's been for guys that cover the Mets every day for a newspaper or for a website or something. I don't know what kind of news they're talking about at this point, because there's just no news. It's all rumor. It's all conjecture. And so to that end, I was reading on Bleacher Report, and I read this over the weekend, but I read it again this morning, kind of hoping there might be some new news. There wasn't new news. Instead, I went and read about two of the rumors that, or not rumors, I guess, suggestions made by different writers as to some free agents the Mets might want to look at. The first one was Jose Bautista, who, if you all can recall, was at one point in his career a New York Met. Now, this is not a black eye kind of thing where it's like, oh, how did the Mets not know what they had in this guy? No one knew that Joey Bats was going to become Joey Bats. He had a cup of coffee with the Mets. He didn't spend very much time in New York. No time in New York, actually. He was in the minor league system of the Mets. But in any event, Jose Bautista was one guy that was one rumor or one suggestion that I read, and I don't get it. The Mets are at a point now where they're trying to trade their only center fielder to free up some salary, rather. And they're going to bring in an old corner outfielder. It doesn't make any sense to me. So that one's sort of a chuckler, and I kind of wrote it off as nonsense. The other one was a little bit interesting, and it's a name that the Mets have been talking about or have been linked to in the last couple of trade deadlines, and his name is Jonathan Lucroy. That's right, the catcher, Jonathan Lucroy. The suggestion that I read was that Lucroy is still an improvement even after a down year over d'Arnaud and or Plawecki for 2018. And while that's not wrong, Lucroy's coming off such a bad year, he might not be a better alternative than d'Arnaud and or Plawecki. But he certainly has more of a pedigree behind him than either of the Mets backstops do. If nothing else, he could be signed for a relatively inexpensive, probably short-term deal so that he can rehabilitate himself, have a good season before he becomes a free agent again and looks for a longer contract. So for me, that's the only part that makes sense about it, the fact that, he'd probably take a one-year deal. But it depends on who else is offering him contracts and whatnot. But I don't think that that's something the Mets should be doing and looking at doing. They shouldn't be looking to spend money on a catcher when they have two who are, adequate. I'll use that word. They need to fill holes that they have. Right now, a big hole is second base, and that was another thing I'd read on Bleacher Report. Basically, a mailbag that asked, "Will Jose Reyes be back to play second base?" And as much as I love Jose Reyes and love what he's meant to the Mets franchise, really over the last 14 years or so, or 15 years or so, with a few years in between where he was elsewhere. But, you know, I don't think the Mets should explore bringing Reyes back. I really don't. I think that ship has sailed. We had our little reunion last year. That has to be like a plan F. There has to be a plan E, D, C, B, and A in front of it as a second base, as an option for second base, or as options to play second base. And that could also include the Mets acquiring a third baseman and then shifting Asdrubal Cabrera over to second. So there may even be more options in front of bringing Reyes back to play second, because doing that pretty much ensures that Cabrera is going to be the third baseman, and the Mets need to find some power from some position in their lineup other than Yoenis Cespedes. Right now, that's drastically lacking. Dom Smith at first base, we don't know what he's going to be. He certainly doesn't profile to be the masher first baseman that most teams like to have as a first baseman. At third base, the other power position in the infield, Asdrubal Cabrera is most certainly not a power player. So again, the Mets are lacking in those departments. And one of the things I talked about before Christmas was that Sandy Alderson and now his new assistant Omar Minaya have to get creative. They have to get creative and make something happen and shuffle some pieces around on the chessboard and figure out how to get the most value out of who's still available on the free agent market, because the Mets have to have some money to spend. I don't want to hear about how they're broke. Talked about this already. Go out and spend some money, make a smart investment, make a surprising investment. Give the Mets and give the Mets fans something to get excited about, other than the cool new manager that they've brought into town. So I will be back at some point this week, hopefully with some news to talk about, because this is going to get old, me just babbling about rumors and nonsense. So hopefully there's some news to react to, and if there is, I will record a video shortly thereafter. If there's not, I'll probably come back on Friday rather, with a sort of a week recap and talk about what the hell we're going to do until something happens in baseball. Pitchers and catchers report pretty soon. I mean, it's like a little bit over a month till Port St. Lucie comes alive with the New York Mets. So now or never, man. These teams have to start moving and signing some of these free agent players, because there's like 5 weeks left until spring training starts. Anyway, that'll wrap it up for today. Thank you for watching. You can continue to follow me on Twitter at Mr_Met. Keep an eye out for everyday Mets trivia questions that I pose and award nothing as a prize for the correct answer. But keep an eye out for them nonetheless. Interact with me on Twitter or on YouTube in the comment section below this video. Thanks again for watching, and Happy New Year, and let's go Mets!